Hi children. I had such a good response from you all as to how much you enjoyed me doing a story. I've decided to do another one. This one I have never ever read to you because this is not a book that I have in our classroom. This is a book that I used to read to my girls, Freya and Mia, when they were really small, and they loved it, and they said to me, you should do The Mud Maid because that is a really good story. And we really like this story because we got the book from a place in Cornwall called the Gardens of Heligan, and it's about those gardens, and they were a lost, it says on the back, it is a magical tale based on the true story of how the gardens of Heligan were lost and found and restored again. So I'm going to read you this one today. I hope you enjoy it. There's some lovely pictures. The Mud Maid. The Mud Maid watched from behind the ferns. Will the gardener was planting lupins. She winked a golden eye at him. Is that a fish? Said Will. The Mud Maid laughed. Herbal gloop. Frogs are about, said Will. He finished planting and trundled the wheelbarrow away. The Mud Maid waved him goodbye. Feels like rain, said Will. When Will had gone away, the Mud Maid climbed out of the lake. She slipped through the gardens, in and out of the shadows, as quiet as a fish. She danced round the tree ferns and into the crystal grotto. She breathed the scent in the peach house and vinery. On Flora's green she picked a golden flower for her hair. All's well, sang the Mud Maid. As the moon came up, she slipped back into the lake with never even a splash. In the morning she peeped out through the ferns. Will did not come. Sunday, said the Mud Maid. But no church bells were ringing. No one watered the new plants, and they withered in the sun. All day the valley was silent and still. In the evening, as she roamed through the gardens, the paths had not been swept. Fallen leaves lay on the lawns. Cabbages drooped. The Mud Maid frowned. All are gone. A cold wind scattered the fallen leaves. On the wind came a bugle call and the sound of marching feet. The Mud Maid shivered. Will? She called, but the wind blew his name away. The Mud Maid walked slowly back to the lake. She forgot to pick a flower for her hair. Days went by and weeks went by. No one came. By the lake the new plants shrivelled to dust. In the gardens fruit rotted on the trees. No one picked the vegetables. No one pruned the shrubs. Cobwebs covered the crystal grotto, and it sparkled no more. Weeds grew everywhere. Forests of sycamore seedlings blocked the paths. Ruin, the Mud Maid cried. One night a noise like thunder filled the air. The sky was lit with angry red light. Rooks flapped and jostled in the trees. Wah! Wah! They squawked. When the Mud Maid heard them, she wept. She stayed under the weeds in the lake. It was too sad out there in the gardens. Rain softened the paths, puddled the flower beds, and washed soil away. Great storms raged. Trees crashed down across the lake. The Mud Maid was trapped inside a cruel cage of twisted roots and branches. As the years dragged slowly by, grass grew over the fallen tree trunks, the lake dried up. Darkness settled deep over the valley. Sometime in the slow march of years, the Mud Maid heard glass crashing, timbers breaking, walls falling. Then there was only silence. The gardens slept beneath a tangled blanket, but the Mud Maid could not sleep. She was too frightened and too sad. Outside the world was changing, but she did not know it. "How long?" she called, but no one answered. She had almost given up hope when she saw a faint gleam above. The Mud Maid blinked. She knew she could not be dreaming. She wasn't asleep. Suddenly there was a cracking sound, and a shaft of sunlight danced over her face. The Mud Maid laughed for joy. "Herbal gloop!" Noise and bustle filled the morning air. A team of heavy horses pulled the cage of tangled trees away, and a blue sky opened up above. From somewhere unseen, cool, clear water began to flow into the lake. The Mud Maid splashed and swam in the quiet of evening. She walked through the gardens on new-built paths, by rebuilt walls and flower beds. In glass houses shining under the moon, she breathed in the scent of peaches and vines. The Mud Maid clapped her hands. All anew. Everywhere long-hidden seeds were sprouting. Primrose leaves pushed up through the leaf litter. Fern fronds uncurled. Birds sang. The Mud Maid danced for joy. On Flora's green she picked a wreath of flowers for her hair. The Mud Maid wandered along the woodland walk under moon-silvered trees. A night bird whistled a lullaby. Moths drifted silently round her head. "All's well," she said. Then she lay down on a pillow of soft green moss and smiled herself to sleep. I don't know if you can see that picture, but if you ever get to go to the gardens of Heligan, which is down in Cornwall, the Mud Maid is there like that, laying in the woodland walk, fast asleep. Hopefully we'll be able to go and do things like that.